Today I'm going to walk up to Top Mountain by a different path. This one, the trailhead is located next to a local school right up this road. So what I plan to do is hike in this way, go all the way up to the top, to the Cafe del Cerro, and from there hike down a different path and come back into Banos about 3 blocks uphill where I am now. The school has some really cool street art on the outside too. At any rate, part of the reason for doing this is a piece of the trail is rather steep, and I hear that it has been much improved, so I want to go see what it's like. I will say it was extremely treacherous in the past, especially if even slightly damp. It was kind of like a mudslide in a way. It was shaped much like one and very smooth. Behind the school, the paved road begins to turn into a dirt or gravel road. This is the correct direction to follow. And as you can see, there are quite a few tourist-oriented businesses right here at the trailhead because, well, this is a very popular place. And the trail becomes more or less single track at this point. And as the sign over to my left says, caution, bicycles downhill. In other words, there could be some less than well-trained mountain bikers coming barreling down the mountain out of control, or nearly so. So use caution. I may have mentioned this on a previous hike. And this is the first bend. You can see that this is a fairly well-used trail. And it does have some gradient for sure. In the past, as you can see, this was more maintained like a road. This helps facilitate the construction up above. They had to move all that cement or concrete mix as well as cinder blocks up the hill. It's a whole lot quicker with a vehicle than a beast of burden like a horse. And while this ascent may be shorter, it has to make up for that with added gradient. And if anything, the gradient is ever increasing as I climb. This is just the first few of many to come along this hike to the top of the mountain here in Baños de Agua Santa, Ecuador. And there is some really cool art along the way as well, like upon this doorway or entrance into the garden. And the trail keeps climbing. Yeah, it looks like the grade's going to top out, or should I say, slow down a bit. It's not flat, but it's a lot closer than it was. Oh, and a nice peep of Baños de Agua Santa below us. And this time of year, it's a really good idea to start training if you intend to guide, especially if you're training for your first year of guiding. You need to be doing hiking, push-ups and squats at the very least. I strongly suggest that you should add in some dips and pull-ups and maybe even some running. You're going to need a lot of endurance. That's the number one problem most new guides face. They lack endurance to keep up with the old guides like me. And if you're not an aspiring guide and you want to come raft, consider checking me out. Click this link up here or follow the one on the screen, and you can book a trip with me on the Ocoee River in Tennessee this summer. While this gradient might only be moderate in my opinion, it's still no joke. And if you're a typical out-of-shape American, it will kick your ass. But you got to admit, for such a steep trail, it is rather aesthetic and very well maintained. Here's another of Baños de Agua Santa's ancient water collection facilities. You see a small spring running off the mountain right there. Once upon a time, this provided water for animals and a washing facility for laundry. It's long fallen out of use. And here we reach a fork in the road. Kind of looks like inverse fork, actually. It leads up to Mirador de Rotunda. It'll take you on up to the attractions on top of the mountain, including the tree house, starting with Cafe del Cielo, the cafe in the sky. And if you keep going this way, you go to Bellavista, the beautiful view. And it has a really nice overlook of Banos, and that's where we're going first. Really are wonderful views here. And here's a tease of things to come, foreshadowing. And the trail is still giving up awesome views along the way. And for my Christian friends, there's the challenge of the 7 crosses. You can do some real hiking and walking to earn this. And well, the view has largely been monopolized and commercialized. And it used to be easy to walk out to the field and take a good look. Here is the forbidden view from Bellavista. Yeah, the pretty view of Baños de Agua Santa, Ecuador, and the surrounding mountains. And now I'm backtracking downhill to the fork in the trail. And it won't be downhill after the fork, believe me. Here I am back at the fork, and I'm going uphill now. And as I recall, this section is quite steep, and it was in pretty bad repair a couple of years ago when I was up here. Got a nice earthy smell. The grounds crew or maintenance guys have been up here weed whacking, so it smells even more earthy. And you can tell this would be a riot in a mountain bike. If you're on the receiving end, it might be kind of scary, especially if it ain't a well-trained mountain biker. This section seems better than my last trip through here, but would probably still be really sketchy in the rain. So far, so good. It seems to be better maintained than I remember. This section of the trail is much steeper than that below the fork. You can see that efforts have been made to keep this well maintained. And, oh, it is steep for the next 20 feet or so. We'll see what's up. This is the first part of the trail that's remotely level. And no, it does have gradient. So I'm almost to my second stop. I'm panning across Banos and up on top of the hill to the huge swing in the tower where I walked to get some water yesterday. I'm about to arrive at the fork, so we'll either choose to go there or back down toward the statue or Banos town. This is the second stop, Cafe del Cielo. The cafe in the sky, or of the sky, whichever way you want to look at it, same difference. And that's the view of Banos. It's a great view up here if you want to come eat something, but you are going to pay for the view. If you are looking for the spa hot springs treatment or experience, this is where you'll find it. But it's going to cost you more than $200 a night. So here I arrive at the forks. Rather than take the left fork up to the treehouse and beyond, I'm going to go to the right and begin my descent back to town. It would be easy to go visit the statue as well if you cared to do so. And while this has some gradient, at least it's downhill. But you should watch your step. There are loose stones and rocks. You don't want to twist your ankle way up on the mountain like this. And even some of the rock formations are quite intriguing to look at closely. As you can see, this leg has a much more pleasant gradient. We still have a ways to go downhill, but it's rather nice, gentle slope along this part of the path. And there's one more to crosses for any of you taking the challenge. And there's a look back over at the previous cross. at the Bellavista. And here is Banos. We pan across. You see the graveyard approaching the center of the screen. And way off over there, now in the center of the screen, is the statue of the Virgin. So now we're approaching the oldest waterworks of Banos. It was built by the parish priest in 1898 with supposedly his own personal funds and his order that also built this path we've been walking today. I will add, however, that Mingas were used. A Minga is basically a labor tax on the poor. While they may not have money to donate, they can donate their labor and do physical labor to build things like this. And if they fail to show up for the Minga, then they are charged a fine, a monetary tribute, which they may or may not have, so that could be problematic. And from here, you get an even better view of the Virgin statue. Oh, and baby Jesus. Quite a bit of this hike, or this final third leg, is rather level and a pleasant walk. Some of it's sunny, and some of it is quite shady. It's a nice mixture, actually. And we arrive at yet another fork. If I continue straight ahead, it will take me back to town 3 blocks uphill from where I began this hike. But if I were to make a 180, a really, really super hard left, it would take me back to the Virgin statue. You saw that in the previous video. So from here, I'll head on down. It will get steeper, but it is downhill. And there's going to be another choice at a fork. Really doesn't make much difference. To the right is probably more expedient. Some single track, but it is shorter. Although as a result, it is steeper because there is less length to make an easier grade. And it is enough of a grade to give your ankles and knees a workout as you descend on some loose rocks. And it's really windy on this part of the mountain, as you can hear. So it's getting rather steep on the way down toward that Jeep. And that Jeep just happens to be right next to the next fork. And we're going to go to the right. All right, there are signs. They are advertising primarily for the yellow hostel. That's what it translates to. And there's this little wooden sign, which is also here for the benefit of the business. It's directing traffic down this incline. You could alternately go to the left, and you will end up at exactly the same place. But today, I will go down the stairs, as I already descended that road, and I want to get a better opinion on which way is more strenuous. The other way is longer because the grade isn't as steep. So just up ahead, you see a cafeteria and sign letting you know it's a hostel. I would suggest that only the fit probably come here. I would think that they mostly get backpackers because, well, the taxi's not going to drop you off at the door. And it is pretty steep right here. So imagine walking back uphill after a night on the town. We're getting close, but we got one more bit of a steep section going downhill towards the trailhead. And it looks like a few mountain bikes been here chewing up the sidewall and such a little bit. Looks like there's been some action here. I saw a lot of tracks along the way, I might add. It wouldn't suck to ride a bike down this. And just ahead, through this rather loose, deep section, we'll reunite with the other fork. If we had taken a left down there instead of going to the right. Hey, yeah, and it's windy here. So you would come down that road if you'd come the other way. You two reunite right here above the paved section. So This is basically the hike. There's another fort that goes up to the statue, as you can see from the sign right here. This is nearly the end of the hike. In post-production, I will determine what the elapsed time of this hike was and give you an idea. I will say it had quite a bit of gradient, probably more, even more than it appeared on the video. By the way, if you're coming to Banos, Ecuador, for a short period of time, like up to a week or so, you may very well want to stay at the Princess Maria Don Victor's hostel. It's quiet, it's clean, it's kind of swanky. You know, you people like to glamp, you'll love this. It isn't glamping, it's just a really nice hostel. And I think it's primarily, if not entirely, private rooms. It's not real cheap, but it isn't very expensive. And this is my after hike meal of fish and veggies. And yeah, it's going to be kind of spicy, just the way I like it.